So I feel like, it's just one of those trails that, I mean, it's kind of cliche, I guess, for me to say that that's my favorite, because that's probably like the one trail that everybody does.
It's very accessible.
But that's why. I mean, you see so much.
Mm-hmm.
You get a really good look at the Everglades as a river of grass versus just a swamp.
Right.
And so I just think for me, if I'm going to go hiking, and there's not a lot of trails to choose from anyway, but like the Anhinga is my favorite. This is the Exploring the National Parks podcast with Dirt in My Shoes. My name is Ash, and I'm a former park ranger and the founder of Dirt in My Shoes. I think that the parks are best seen from the trail, and I'm here to make national park trip planning easy.
And I'm John. I carry the kids on the trails, I tell stories, and notice all the things that Ash doesn't care about much, like flowers.
Join us as we show you around America's spectacular national parks.
We're sharing our favorite places, fun facts, adventures, and misadventures.
And we'll even throw in a little trip planning.
Let's start exploring.
Hello, and welcome to another week of Exploring the National Parks with us. I am so excited to start a new park. This time we are focusing on Everglades National Park.
The one of the best. This place is incredible.
We haven't talked about this national park very much because it does stay busy, but it's not like one of the big heavy hitters in the national park system.
Right.
And so, a lot of people, I don't get a ton of questions about Everglades, but I feel like it's because a lot of people don't realize how awesome it is.
Right. It is so much fun to be here. It's one of the most unique places I think that I've been to ever, and in terms of scenery, wildlife, climate, it's one of the most unique places I can describe. It's so cool.
Yeah.
I love being here, and it surprises you in lots of different ways as you travel around it and see different things. It's so cool.
This episode is all about our favorite things at the Everglades or in the area of the Everglades. And we'll talk about that because there's so much to do around the Everglades too. But yeah, today we want to talk about our favorite things just to kind of give you a taste of some of the things that you can do or look forward to, things that you can add to your own list so that when you go, you have specific recommendations. And we're really familiar with the area. We go there pretty often.
Right.
So
yes. And this first question that we're going to start off with is one of the reasons why we come to this place so frequently. Because it has the best food in the world, basically.
Listen, national parks, sometimes I'm really tired of eating national park food. So we always try the food when we're at a national park. We'll eat at the lodge. We'll eat in some restaurants around the park and stuff like that. But a lot of times it's kind of a lackluster experience, honestly.
There's only so many huckleberries that you can eat.
A lot of the food starts tasting the same. And so I think for both of us, the question is, what's our favorite restaurant or food at the Everglades? And when I was thinking about this, I was like, well, I can't name just one.
I know.
There's no way to limit it to one because you're in the greater Miami area, and Miami is such a melting pot for so many different people and cultures, and the food reflects that. Yeah. And so it's so much fun to go. It's part of the experience, I feel like.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's really fun that we're able to take our kids to these restaurants and we're all trying something new and we're learning about a different way of life and a different culture and different things that people eat.
Yes.
And, and then we're having discussions around that. When we go to a Cuban restaurant, for example, our kids are like, well, where's Cuba? And then we get to talk about it.
Yeah. Oh, it's so fun. There's Cuban food, there's Puerto Rican food, Dominican food, in addition to Mexican food. And there's just so many fun things. Plus, some of the restaurants feature food that you can only get in the Everglades.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
So wildlife that you would get, alligator, frogs, some other fun things that you can, some fun things that you can eat in the area if you were, to go outside your door and hunt for whatever was available.
Right. So John, if you could pick just one restaurant for people to try on their first visit to the Everglades, which one would you choose?
Okay, this was a hard choice because I liked so many different things, but I think the standout would have to be, I don't even know necessarily how to say this properly. You might have to correct me because I think you're better at languages, but it looks like from my 9th grade history class, the Treaty of Versailles. It looks like it's Versailles Cuban cuisine.
Yeah, so it's spelled like Versailles, like you would say in French. Mm-hmm. The palace
right.
in Paris. But it's actually, because the area is so heavily influenced by Spanish, mm-hmm. they actually pronounce it, the double L's, as if you were speaking Spanish. As a y. And so it's actually Versailles.
Versailles.
Yep.
Okay, cool. My first choice, Versailles restaurant. Versailles Cuban cuisine restaurant.
Oh, it's so good.
Oh, it's
that
so delicious.
That place is always busy. Mm-hmm. You have to go, we've waited for a very long time for a table there.
The first time we were there when we had littles, when our kids were really little, and we're just waiting in this parking lot, and our kids are looking at, there's a little bakery as part of the restaurant too, and the kids are like, can we just go in there and get whatever they have? I'm like, no, we're waiting for the good stuff.
Yeah, which the bakery...
The bakery is good too.
Yeah, but we waited for a while, so then we didn't make that mistake again. Mm-hmm. And now we eat kind of an early dinner. Mm-hmm. If we're going to go there, we try to get in there before all the people come for,
right. 3 o'clock.
6 to 7, is about the time that you'll get there, and you'll have to wait for an hour and a half, mm-hmm. sometimes for a table. So we'll go at 4:30 or 5, and we can get right in usually. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that food, oh my gosh. So good. Oh,
it was delicious. And my favorite, there's a bunch of different things on the menu that are so good, but I think my favorite thing was the fried pork chunks for sure.
Yeah.
Because I thought that I'd had pork before, and I thought that I liked pork. But the fried pork chunks, somehow, whatever they do, whatever's in the oil, I don't know how they do it, but it just tastes so amazing. It's crunchy, but not. I don't know how to describe it.
It's like a crunchy outside, but it's really tender on the inside.
Yeah. Oh.
And then they do lots of plantains. We've gotten the ceviche because we just love ceviche.
Yep.
They do have the Cuban sandwiches.
Which I didn't think I liked, because I remember at a different place I got a Cuban sandwich, and it was just somebody sat on a sandwich and gave it to me. I was like, thank you for this week-old hoagie that you left out and then sat on.
It is. It's kind of it was stale bread with a couple pickles and some meat and cheese, and then squish.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So the Cuban sandwich, I think we both were kind of not excited about that, but we thought we'd try it again, and we got it at Versailles, and it was pretty good.
It was so much better.
Yeah.
I don't know why they squish it. I'm assuming it's I'm assuming that it's not just some guy sitting on it, but I'm pretty, they're smashing all the flavors together or something, but it was so good at Versailles and so not good at the other place.
A couple of other ones that I just wanted to briefly mention if you're looking for that type of cuisine. So Versailles is, I think, the one that you shouldn't miss.
Right.
But if you're staying down in Homestead a little bit closer to Everglades, and, you don't want to drive up to Miami, mm-hmm. then we went to this one. It was called El Coqui, and that one was Puerto Rican.
That was really good.
And that one was really good. I've never had Puerto Rican food before, mm-hmm. and so we really didn't know, what to order. And again, we had a really fun conversation with the waiter who helped us order some things that we might be interested in.
Mm-hmm. And we ordered way too much.
Always. Always.
The rice and beans mixture or whatever was so good.
Yeah, that was really good. We got I guess a lot of people eat pizza flavored empanadas mm-hmm. down there. So we got some of those. We tried some of their sodas. That was really fun. And then the other one that is right down there in Homestead as well is called Fonda Familiar. Mm-hmm. And that's a Mexican restaurant, and that one was delicious too.
Oh my gosh, it blew me away. But the thing that stole the show for me was the horchata. Because if ever there is horchata on the menu, I get the horchata. And I've seen and I've tasted my fair share of horchata, but this was literally the best horchata I've ever had.
Yeah, well, and I'm not a huge fan of horchata. Mm-hmm. I'll drink a little bit of it, but a lot of times it's gross to me.
Right.
But this one was so good. Like, I still dream about that horchata.
I was pretty stingy on how much I poured out for the kids in their little cups. Hey, Dad, can I have some more? Yes, son. Here's your 1 milliliter.
So those are some really fun. I feel like if you want to experience the culture of the Miami area through food, then those 3 restaurants are some of our favorite.
Right. And I think so I'm going to add another to this list. So I feel like those 3 are really unique or fun places to go to experience kind of the cultural atmosphere of the Miami area, where it's a melting pot of a lot of different places. But in terms of like food that you eat that's specific to like the national park experience in the Everglades, I think it was called the Triad Seafood Cafe in Everglades City. That place was awesome. And it had I didn't know that the Everglades was the stone crab capital of the world until we were in Everglades City. And it's kind of like a working harbor town in a way, where there's a lot of people that are crabbers. And there's just so many crabs in that area. And so we sat down to the restaurant and, we're like, what's on the menu? And we found a sampler and we had tons of crabs. It was so good.
Yeah, we're a big seafood family. We eat a lot of seafood anyway. Yeah, that restaurant was fun because it was like on stilts over the water. And so it wasn't fancy, but it was a really fun ambiance. And it literally felt like they had just barely been fishing, came back, put the stuff on the grill, and then served it to us, which is exactly what I like. And that's what you want when you get seafood. A lot of times you can tell that the quality is so much better if it feels like it's fresh.
Yeah.
And so the crabs were really good. That's also when I discovered that I really like grouper.
Yes. Ooh, that blackened grouper, I think, is what it was that you got. It was so good.
It was
the thickest fish I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was like a fish steak. And it was so good. It was kind of like I want to say it was like a whitefish, kind of like halibut a little bit.
Wasn't super fishy.
Yeah, it was delicious.
Yeah, that was a great spot. Oh, so that's a good spot. I think that's one of my favorite places. Like I said, the Everglades culture experience, because I think the Everglades itself kind of has its own culture, because there's a lot of people that have grown up or lived in or around the Everglades, and it affects their lifestyle because there's a lot of yummy foods, sort of yummy foods that come out of the Everglades, depending on the creature that the food came from. So,
yeah, well, and my dad is from Florida, so I have a lot of family from Florida, and so I've grown up hearing stories of like some of the weird things that he ate. They're hillbillies through and through. So, I mean, the stories are fun, but yeah, I feel like when you go to the Everglades, eating somewhere like Triad is really fun to kind of take in that part of the Everglades, more of the ocean cuisine that you can get from there, because you are bordering an ocean on most of the Everglades. So that's really fun. But then also on the other side, you've got the Gator Grill.
Yes.
Which we will talk about more in depth, I'm sure, in another episode. But that's the one where you'll get like the alligator and the frogs and stuff like that. The stories that my dad would tell me growing up, things that he ate as a hillbilly from Florida.
Right.
So that's really fun too.
Yes. So much yummy food. That's, besides the Everglades, it's worth just eating your way around Florida. It's so good.
I think you have to. It's just, you go to the Everglades, you see the cool stuff, and then you also soak in the cultural aspect of it through the food.
Yes.
That's a really fun one. We could talk about food for a whole episode. But let's move on. So, John, what is your favorite place to stay?
Okay. So I don't have a favorite hotel or lodge or motel or any Airbnb or anything like that. I mean, we have stayed in some nice places, but I think the way I want to answer this question is my favorite place to stay is Homestead, the town or the area of Homestead, because Everglades is huge. It's like the whole bottom tip of Florida. And so if you stay in the wrong place, you could find yourself driving way too long to get to a bunch of different places. And you may not want to go to a bunch of different places because of how far it is. And so I like how central Homestead is to almost all of the main points of interest that I want to travel to when I go to the Everglades. And so based on location, that's why I choose Homestead. is my favorite place to stay.
Yeah, and I second that. And we'll talk more about like how to choose where to stay in the trip planning episode.
Mm-hmm.
But what's nice about Homestead is you're super close to the main entrances to the park that you're going to want to go to on your first visit.
Mm-hmm.
You're also really close to Biscayne National Park from there. So if you're hoping to hit that, you're not too far from Miami either. I mean, we've stayed in Miami before, and that was fine. It was just a little bit further out than we like to be typically if we're going to spend most of our time in the Everglades.
Right.
I think Homestead is really good. I don't like Florida City that much. It feels a little bit less nice to me. And so, yeah, we'll typically stay in Homestead when we're there.
Yeah, I like Homestead a lot. It's close to the park, plus it's close to a lot of the restaurants we just mentioned, closer than some of the other places. It's just very central. So, yeah, Homestead is a great spot. What would you say is your favorite hike, Ash, in the Everglades?
Okay, so this is what I learned the first time I went to the Everglades. The Everglades is not a hiking national park.
I know. It's one of those, that's the only time that you feel like, what's your favorite hike?
I know.
You know?
And I was like trying to think about it, and I was like, well, I mean, like that was the biggest shock to me, I feel like, because I hike when I go to the national parks, and we got to Everglades and I was like, there's like all these other things that you do there besides hike. And I felt like really out of my element.
Well, plus you get there and it's just like water everywhere. And, you know, where do I step? Water
and no elevation change. So, but there are a few hikes. There's some like nice shorter trails that you can do in the Everglades. But I have to say, my favorite was the Anhinga Trail.
The Anhinga Trail is really great. I do like the Anhinga Trail a lot. Why would you say it's your favorite though?
So it's my favorite because A, that's the first place we ever saw an alligator.
Yes.
And so that was really exciting. B, there's a whole bunch of other creatures there that you can see from the boardwalks on that trail.
Yeah.
And so we've spent a lot of time just hanging out on the boardwalks. We've seen various types of turtles, lots of different kinds of birds, things like that, plus the alligators.
Yep.
So I feel like, you know, it's just one of those trails that, I mean, it's kind of cliche, I guess, for me to say that that's my favorite, because that's probably like the one trail that everybody does.
It's very accessible.
But that's why. I mean, you see so much. You get a really good look at the Everglades as a river of grass versus just a swamp.
Right.
And so I just think for me, if I'm going to go hiking, and there's not a lot of trails to choose from anyway, but like the Anhinga is my favorite.
Well, you know, what's so interesting, it's a huge area, but not so much land. That's one of the reasons why it makes it so unique, is because you're looking out over this landscape. It looks like a grassland in a lot of ways, but it's just full of a couple of feet of water, you know, all around you everywhere. And so where there is land, it's actually kind of rare. And so for there to be a place to hike in that's accessible is a unique experience. And what I was so recently I've been reading the Chronicles of Narnia books, as Ash knows, and the final book has a character named Puddleglum. And I feel like that's the perfect name for a person that would live in the Everglades. Puddleglum, you know, and he's kind of just this downer character. He's like, you know, something good happens. It's like, oh, cool, you saw an alligator. It probably doesn't matter because a hurricane's going to blow in and we're going to die tomorrow anyways, but this is a fun experience. So he's kind of a negative character. And the BBC movies that they make sometimes where they have like a $3 budget are super funny. And so if you want to look up Puddleglum BBC character, it's like the funniest low budget costume person you've ever seen. That's basically what Puddleglum is he's named a marsh wiggle. That's what kind of a character or kind of a creature he is. And it's just like this big scarecrow looking kind of a character, super long and anyway, weird arms and legs. But anyways, that's kind of the place that I think he would live at, is in one of these areas where there is a little bit of land, and it's just kind of fun. So anyways, if you read Chronicles of Narnia, there's a little reference for you, but hiking in the Everglades is fun.
So what's your favorite trail?
Well, it's in the same area actually. So the Gumbo Limbo Trail is something that I really liked because you don't get to see it very often because a lot of the trails that you go on, the hiking, they're more boardwalks. But right next to the Anhinga Trail, there's this trail called the Gumbo Limbo Trail, and you get to see the Gumbo Limbo trees. And the Gumbo Limbo trees have the coolest bark of like any tree in the area. They're super cool, and it's like this orange peely bark that kind of comes off these trees, and it's just really pretty and it's really fun.
Very cool. I would not have pegged you to choose that one, except just that I know how much you love trees.
Right. Yes.
So, and I think we'll talk more about those trees too here in a minute. But okay, so then moving on, John, what is your favorite gift shop?
So I think the largest and best gift shop is the Ernest F. Coe Visitor Center. Inside there's a gift shop that I think is the largest gift shop in the park. So
it's hard in the park because, yes, the Ernest F. Coe, that's where you're going to find like the best in-park gift shop. I feel like the Shark Valley Visitor Center gift shop was like a pack of Pringles and some Band-Aids. So there was not much there.
However, they did have the largest selection of shot glasses, and I did buy a shot glass from that one.
Yeah, I was like, is this all? This is all that's here? And then Flamingo, so there's a visitor center down at Flamingo, but that got hit by a hurricane. And so it's like a temporary visitor center right now, but they're rebuilding. In all the times that we've been to the Everglades, there's not been anything really down there.
Right.
Except for that temporary visitor center. But now they're putting in a new lodge and a new restaurant, and, you know, they're like building it up again. So, you know, that could change. Maybe their gift shop will be really awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Coe Visitor Center is the best place to go if you're looking for like Everglades stuff. I feel like for me, I wanted to also mention Robert Is Here.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Is Here is a fruit stand just outside of the park near the Coe Visitor Center. And that, first of all, they have delicious key lime pie shakes.
Right. That was the most key limey thing I've ever tasted. Yeah, so good.
So good. So that was fun. But then they do have like some trinkets and stuff that you can buy there as well. And then you can get jams. I know we talked about jams, National Park jams.
Yeah, jams. They also had flavored honey, and you should not try to get key lime flavored honey. We did try to we bought that, and it was the worst peanut butter sandwich I've ever had.
It was so gross. I don't know what we were thinking. We were thinking that we wanted key lime everything. So, yeah, don't get the key lime honey. That was not good. But we always stop in there and get guacamole.
Oh, so good.
They have like homemade guacamole there, and then they've got tons of fruit. So we'll do that. They also have boiled peanuts, which is a Florida thing. And my dad was like, you've got to get boiled peanuts. Like, he eats those religiously if he finds them anywhere.
Right.
And they're disgusting, I think. But we did get some of those.
Yeah, that's probably as close as I'll ever get to eating like a grub worm, is what it feels like when you're eating a peanut. It's just like, it's kind of a little bit firm when you first take your bite, and then it just squashes. Wah.
I feel like you ate a ton of boiled peanuts, so I'm surprised that you would say that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I like Robert Is Here. I like the Coe Visitor Center. Those are good places to get souvenirs. Okay, John, what is your favorite animal in the Everglades?
Oh my gosh, this was a hard choice because so many of the animals are so cool. But actual favorite animal to see in the park is the American crocodile.
Okay.
That one is so cool. It's like, they can get huge, and they're so cool looking. It's like looking at a dinosaur, you know, from 56 million years ago. And the teeth are just everywhere, and they can get like 15 feet long. And they're just, every time I saw a crocodile, it was so cool.
Well, and we don't, like, they're pretty elusive. You don't see them all the time.
Right. The American alligator, you'll see quite a bit more of, but and those are amazing too. And those are so cool. In terms of just like wow factor, like something rare, something cool, something that might want to eat me, the American crocodile is the number one for me.
Well, and those are the ones, right, correct me if I'm wrong, but those are the ones where you can like see their teeth when their mouths are closed.
Yeah, their snouts are a little bit more narrow than the American alligator. And when their mouths are closed, you can see teeth going up and down outside of their what you would call lips, I guess.
So they look more menacing.
Yes.
I feel like they look like a lot scarier.
Yeah.
Because you can see so many teeth even if their mouths aren't open.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So. The crocodiles, you'll mainly see those in more saltwatery mixing areas. So closer to the coast is generally where you'll see the crocodile because they'll live in freshwater or in saltwater. But the American alligator is more prevalent in just the freshwater areas.
Okay, so that leads into my favorite, which is the alligator.
Nice.
And I went back and forth because there are so many cool animals that you can see in the Everglades. But I thought, you know what? I have never seen an alligator out in the wild till I saw one in the Everglades.
Yes.
And that's what you like go there to see. That's what you're so excited to see. You know, that's pretty much all I knew about the Everglades before we went was that there are alligators. And I remember thinking like, this is frightening because I'm used to hiking with bears and moose and other things that want to eat you.
What happens when you spray an alligator with bear spray?
Well, I was like, well, what do you do when you see an alligator? You know, I know what you do when you see a bear.
Right.
But like, I had a lot of fear.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know. Like, and then we got there and basically, I think we only ever saw them just like laying around. You know,
most of them were warming themselves in the sun.
They didn't care that we were there or anything. So it turned out to not be as scary as I had in my mind. But I still like seeing alligators. Such a cool experience for me.
They are so cool. Like I said, I mean, they're relics of an ancient world, man. They are so cool. They're still like, I mean, the way that they eat, they just like swallow things whole. And if they bite on something so big, they have to twist and tear it off. You know, they're so cool. I love alligators and crocodiles. They're just like the closest thing we'll get to a T-Rex outside of Jurassic Park in this time. It's amazing. But if I could say a quick runner-up, just for fun, is the Florida soft-shell turtle. Do you remember when we saw that on the Anhinga Trail?
Yeah, for sure.
So the reason that I like the Florida soft-shell turtle is because, I mean, I think everybody's seen like a box turtle. You know, they have kind of the hard shell. They've got the pretty typical profile of a regular turtle. But the Florida soft-shell turtle has the funniest facial features of any turtle. So if you Google an image of a soft-shell turtle, you know when you watch like a cartoon growing up and you see like a mole, you know, and it's usually got like super beady eyes and it's got like, it looks like its voice would talk a little bit like this, you know, like it's just spending its whole day in the lab. I feel like the Florida soft-shell turtle is like the Everglades version of a mole, and it has the funniest looking face. It'll just make you giggle when you see it because it all just kind of comes to a point and it's like its face has been pulled forward to a point. Anyways, it's pretty funny. I love the Florida soft-shell.
I will look it up, but the Florida soft-shell turtle, that's hard to say.
It is.
The Florida soft-shell turtle kept us busy for a really long time with our kids. They were so excited to see those.
Yes. Moving on. Favorite plant in the park, Ash? What's your favorite plant?
I'm not very good with plants. I don't know the names of most plants. And so the first one that came to my mind that I knew the name of was the gumbo limbo tree.
Right.
So I love that tree, I think, because it's my soulmate as far as like what my skin does when I'm out in the Florida sun versus like what its bark does. So the gumbo limbo tree is also known as the tourist tree.
Oh.
Because it looks like sunburnt skin that's peeling off.
Oh, yes. Yes,
and
that's right.
That's exactly what my skin does. I'm very pale until I'm burnt. And so, so it was just fun. It was really fun to hike among those trees and just see like the bark is super unique. It's a really pretty shade of red, but it like peels off the tree and like You know when you were in elementary school and you used to put glue on your hands and let it dry and then peel it off?
Uh-huh.
That's like what it reminds me of.
Right.
The skin peeling off. It's just like a really fine layer of like bark. Everybody's done it. I don't know why we pretend that nobody used to put glue on their hands and peel it.
Uh-huh.
But anyway, so I'd never seen anything like it. They also look like a little bit rubbery.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like really fun to see. I didn't know they existed and I really love them.
Yeah, they're super neat. They're fun. And like we talked about earlier, you can see them really well on the Gumbo Limbo Trail. You know, you can see a bunch of those tourist trees as you're walking around and they're peeling all over the place.
Yeah. So what's your favorite?
So my favorite is the sawgrass. And so,
okay, tell me why.
Okay, so the Everglades is known as the river of grass, right? And so the sawgrass to me is kind of like, it's the main plant that you'll see all around you almost all the time. And so it's really unique. And it's called sawgrass because if you tried to walk through it, and if you weren't wearing the right kind of clothes, it would just tear your clothes to pieces because it's got these little serrated edges on the sides of it. And so it's kind of it's kind of a threatening grass, I guess. But
a threatening grass.
Yes, it's a threatening grass. And the sequel, Mowing Your Lawn, next week. But it's kind of a funny, I don't know, it's just so unique. And so the grass itself, so as the water moves through Everglades National Park, the sawgrass, which is the most prevalent plant in the park, actually does the most work when it comes to cleaning up the water. And so the Everglades acts as like this giant filter. And so it soaks up a lot of the nitrates and phosphorus and I think a lot of the other things. So it sucks it out of the water. And so as you kind of go deeper into the Everglades, you'll notice the water is pretty clear. It's actually really clean. And so the grasses are doing a lot of this work. And it's so cool. And I don't know, it's such a fun plant to observe, not to hike through. But the National Park Service every once in a while just makes you laugh. And I have to tell you why. Because as I was trying to learn a few more things about the sawgrass, this is what was on the National Park Service's page regarding the grasses. So the sawgrass is not actually a member of the actual grass family. It's part of the sedge family. And the NPS says after that, rest assured, though, the Everglades is home to many true grasses.
Because we were really worried. I was really worried that was a sedge and not a grass.
Exactly. I'm wondering, who are they writing this to? Who's stressed out? I flew all this way and it's not even a real grass?
Oh my gosh, stop it. Stop it.
And so,
listen, I can laugh. I know a lot of people who work in those departments in the Park Service, and it has to be taken seriously by somebody. Okay.
They're letting all this mud blood grass in here.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny. That is so funny.
I just thought, so rest assured, even though it's part of the sedge family, we have plenty of true-blooded grasses, full-fledged actual grass in the Everglades. You'll be able to find it.
That was a really bad laugh. Sorry. That was like a full snort laugh.
So yes, sawgrass. It's not a real grass. Sausage.
Oh, that is so funny. Okay. Oh, so I thought you said sausage, like food. I have food on my mind.
Uh-huh.
Oh, sausage.
Sausage.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That's great.
Yes.
Okay, so moving to the next question. By the way, there are a lot of really cool biologists and stuff in the park.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think when you work in a place that's you're so focused in on a certain landscape and a certain environment, then you do worry about if it's a regular grass or not. That's a normal thing. Mm-hmm. So thank you to all of you who do that work, but also it's funny.
Yes.
It's super funny.
Exactly. It's like on The Office, how they call Oscar actually, sawgrass is not actually a real grass. It's a sedge. Actually.
So funny. Okay, John, I want to know what your favorite place in the park is, your favorite section. of the Everglades.
So my favorite section is, I don't even know if I'm saying this right, Tamiami Trail.
Okay. Interesting choice.
Yeah, I love that section of the trail. And this is why. So the Tamiami Trail is the road that is basically the northern border of the Everglades. And so as you're driving along it, you'll go up and over a whole bunch of bridges and things that is kind of allowing water to cross from the northern area down into the Everglades. And you're seeing a lot of almost like locks, but you're seeing a lot of people, kind of fishing on the right side. On the left side, a lot of times you'll see kind of the airboat tour areas. So people taking airboat tours and some other businesses there. But you're traveling quite a distance. And I feel like you just get to see a lot of the Everglades kind of quickly, but in a way that kind of lets your imagination go wild a little bit. And
I have blank stares coming from my direction of the room. Like, there are so many cool parts of the Everglades, and you literally chose a road. So I'm waiting to be wowed.
Okay, well, the Tamiami Trail also, that area is where you access Shark Valley. Right.
Okay, but that's a different section than the road.
Sort of. But it's kind of up there. But I don't know. It's like, you don't like this movie very much, but you've seen The Village, right? I watch that every year around Halloween.
I've gotten through like half of it. I still don't know how it ends because I fall asleep.
Okay, that's true. Well, I love that movie. Well, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen The Village and for Ash, but the whole place is actually in present time, but it's like they've made it into like a natural preserve. So like, anyways, at the end of the movie, there's this guy and he's driving on this road and, he's like driving along the perimeter of this preserve, this natural preserve. And then all of a sudden, this girl, Bryce Dallas Howard, jumps over the fence and like runs out into the road, this blind chick, and she's like, "Are you from the towns?" And if you knew the movie, you would actually think it was kind of interesting. But it's just like, as you're driving, there's this giant wall of foliage on your left side and on your right side. And you're like, there could be anything in there. And there is anything in there. There's alligators, there's snakes, there's all these different things. And my imagination just kind of goes wild while I'm driving along this road. And it's just so thick. There could be a squatch in there. There's an unlimited amount of imaginary things that could be in the Everglades. And for me, that's why I love driving along that road, is because it's just this wall of foliage. You kind of get to explore it a little bit, but you never get that deep in, and there could be anything in there.
Okay. I should have known that it would come back to The Village. Another one of John's favorite movies.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I can appreciate that. That's fine.
Yes. It's not a typical answer.
Forget the parts of the park where you can see sea life, and, that's fine.
You can see alligators from up there. We've seen alligators. We've seen crocodiles.
We saw tons of birds last time we drove the Tamiami Trail.
Yes, we did.
There are a lot of birds. So that's the road that goes, well, it's called the Tamiami Trail because it connects Tampa to Miami.
Right.
But basically, yeah, you'll drive that road if you're going to Shark Valley. You'll drive that road if you're heading out to like Everglades City, to that part of the park. Mm-hmm. So next time you drive that road, think of The Village.
Right.
All right. So my favorite part of the park.
Yes, tell me about yours.
Actually does go along kind of with that.
What?
And
you chastise me for liking it.
Well, I think that my choice is much more traditional answer. I love Shark Valley.
Yeah.
I love Shark Valley.
It's incredible.
Why it's called Shark Valley, I don't know.
I know.
Oh, do you?
Yes, I absolutely do.
Okay, because there's no sharks. You're not even close to the ocean. And that's where you see all the alligators. Mm-hmm. So, okay, tell me. Why is it called Shark Valley?
The Everglades is a giant river, right? And I'll get more into this in a different episode. But it's a giant river, and the elevation, most of the Everglades is less than 14 feet deep. And so you've got these sections of the park where there's deeper sections where the water moves a little bit more quickly, and you've got some deeper habitat area for different kinds of wildlife. And then you've got some more shallower sections. There's a lot of, as you get to the kind of the interior of the Everglades, the Shark Valley area is in what's called the Shark Slough. And it's a deeper section of the Everglades, and the water moves more quickly there. And so that's where Shark Valley is. It's kind of adjacent to that. It's kind of at the beginning of it, and the Shark Slough goes right past it. And it's a freshwater area. But anyways, that's how they named it. There's a Shark River a little bit later on. There's a Shark Slough, Shark Valley. I'm assuming it's because like bull sharks can, just like salmon, they can go into fresh water. So bull sharks can go in there. And I'm assuming a long time ago that someone saw a bull shark or something up in some of these deeper areas of the Everglades. And now it's called Shark Valley. But I can't verify that claim. But I think I would imagine that's what why it would be called that.
Interesting. The reason that I love Shark Valley is because you see so many alligators. I mean, that's just like, it's so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And there's various different ways that you can get around the area. Basically, you just go in, you park by the visitor center, and then you need to either bike or take the tram or walk.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw, last time we took the tram, I think we lost count at like 34 alligators.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
We saw
incredible.
Baby alligators. We saw big alligators. They were all out sunning themselves and just like cooling themselves down. So that's where we saw like the alligators with their mouths wide open.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're passing right by, you're pretty close to them. They're all just like right there. And so for me, because I was so excited to see alligators in the Everglades, and that's what I associate the Everglades with, is I just think Shark Valley is the coolest spot because that's where you see the alligators.
Mm-hmm. Oh man. Yeah. That's such a good choice. Mine is more imaginary. Yours is a really good choice.
It's fine. There's no wrong answers. But Shark Valley, yes, very cool.
Yes.
Okay, so I had to laugh about this next question, which is, what is your favorite viewpoint in the park? Because literally the Everglades is at 0 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And viewpoints are pretty scarce.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're like, you know, on the side of a cliff looking down at a lake or anything, you know. It's just like a viewpoint is pretty
Yeah, it's like you're standing on a tuna can.
Yeah.
And that's your viewpoint.
But
everybody bring your own.
This is what I remembered. Okay. There is an observation tower at Shark Valley.
There is.
That's the highest point in the park.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually get really cool views from there.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite viewpoint.
Yep. I also chose that as my number one because I think it's so cool. You can see alligators we saw a crocodile from up there. It was pretty neat.
Yeah.
But I think the only other option was the Paheoki one, the Paheoki observation deck.
And that one was cool too. I like that one too. I just thought I like to be higher.
Yeah.
I like to be higher and get just like a really good 360 degree view of the Everglades.
Yep.
So that was my favorite.
I agree. I chose that one too.
Okay, John, what makes this park so cool? Like, what's your favorite thing about the park?
This is such a unique place, and it all has to do with wildlife for me. And so it's not, I was trying to figure out how to describe this place. You know, it's not like it's the Yellowstone of the Southeast or something. You know, Yellowstone, you get to see all these huge, you know, land roving mammals and things like that. What I said, the best way to describe this, it's like an African safari for weird, ancient animals and birds. And so there are so many things that you can see here that you won't see anywhere else. And you'll see ancient creatures, you'll see slimy creatures, you'll see birds of every single color imaginable that have flown here from every single corner of the globe. It is such a unique habitat. It's so big, so wide, so flat, so wet that it's just home to some really unique experiences and animals that you won't get anywhere else. You couldn't get anywhere else. And so that's why it's so cool.
I 100% agree. And actually, when I was writing the ultimate trip planning guide to the Everglades, like I always like to include a quote on that page just from someone who was influential in the area. And I didn't include this one, but it like stuck with me because same thing that you said, like, I think that's what makes the Everglades so cool is that it's not a swamp. Lots of people think it's a swamp. It's not a swamp.
Right.
The water is moving. It's clean. It's, you know, it's really is like what they say. It's a slow moving river.
And it doesn't smell bad.
No. And it's a very slow moving river. So I think that was like what to me was the coolest was it was just like all the wildlife. Like I was not expecting that at all. I don't know anywhere else where you can go. Like, we saw alligators, crocodiles, manatees, dolphins, like a plethora of birds.
Oh, man. Yeah.
If you're lucky, you can see panthers, python, you know, like there's so many things you can see there.
Oh, yeah. To hit on the birds for a second, the birds is one of the reasons why this place is a national park in the first place. But if you want to learn a different language, go to the NPS site and click on their birds checklist for the Everglades. Like, I wanted to just see how many birds you can find in the Everglades. There's more than like 360 kinds of birds that you can find there of all different colors, and they have the weirdest names imaginable. Like, I was just like reading through the list of names, and I was like, I don't think I understand what they're describing or why it's named that. And then finally I was just like scrolling. It took me like 5 minutes to get to the bottom of that list because there's so many different birds of all different kinds of genuses and species and colors and all. I don't know. It's amazing.
To come back around to why I was talking about a quote, ultimately I picked one from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, who is very influential in the area. But there was another one that was really interesting to me, this quote from, his name is Daniel B. Beard. And basically he was the first superintendent of the Everglades when it was made a national park. And for those of you that don't know, so the superintendent, that's basically like the highest level you can get working in a park, a specific park,
right,
for the National Park Service. So that he's the head honcho of Everglades, or he was the first head honcho of the Everglades. So anyway, but also I thought you would think this was interesting. His dad was one of the founders of the Boy Scouts.
No way.
Yeah, and he was an ecologist, so he loves all the wildlife and, you know, that part of it too. But that's kind of his background. His dad was the founder of the Boy Scouts, and then he was born in Flushing. He's from Flushing, New
York.
Yep, and that's where John lived when he lived in New York City. So, but basically, like, his quote, I just read part of it. He says, "There are no knife-edged mountains protruding up into the sky. There are no valleys of any kind. No glaciers exist, no gaudy canyons, no geysers, no mighty trees, not even a rock-bound coast with the spray of the ocean waves. None of the things we are used to seeing in our parks. Instead, there are lonely distances, intricate and monotonous waterways, birds, sky, and water." Then he says, "To put it crudely, there is nothing in the Everglades that will make Mr. Johnny Q. Public suck in his breath." This is not an indictment against the Everglades as a national park, because breath sucking is still not the thing we are striving for in preserving wilderness areas.
Nice.
So, and then he ends, "The reasons for even considering the lower tip of Florida as a national park are 90% biological ones, and hence highly perishable."
Ooh, that's so
true. I think for me, like, that quote completely like enveloped how I felt about the Everglades on my first visit there. It was like, wow, like, I'm so used to seeing like the peaks of Glacier National Park and the Grand Canyon and Yosemite and, you know, all these big national parks. And you get there and you're just kind of like, this is interesting. Okay, you know, but then like the longer you spend there, the more time that you spend getting to know the area and the wildlife and, you know, like the sawgrass and, you know, everything like that is just like, it's all in the smaller details and it revolves around like life.
Yeah.
You know, the life that the Everglades provides for all of these creatures and like, you know, it's so important. It's such an important landscape. And I just love that. That's my favorite thing about the Everglades, because I just like, when you first look at it, you're like, well, interesting, you know, but then after you're like, wow, this place is amazing.
You have to, it takes a second glance and a little bit deeper look. Yeah. You know, it gets better the more you look at it.
I agree. And I just love that quote where he's like, it's not going to make you like suck in your breath. You know, and it's true. You don't get there and you're like, wow, like, this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's true.
But once you understand why it's a national park and what it's there protecting, it becomes so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so unique. It's so powerful. And it is life-giving to so many creatures that don't have a home other than that place.
Anyway, I think that sums up the Everglades really well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think that, I'm really excited to talk more about like our specific experiences in the park and, things that we enjoy doing and things that you can do when you go.
Mm-hmm.
But, for now, that's a great list of things that you can put on your radar and get you excited about visiting the Everglades.
Thanks for exploring the national parks with us.
Please share, like, and subscribe. And if you need any help planning your own trip, click on over to dirtmyshoes.com.
See you next week. Same time, same place.
And don't forget to get some dirt in your shoes.